Righty ho, peeps. I'm calling this one Miscommunication 101. And it's something I've been thinking about for a while. How do we miscommunicate with ourselves and others? Miscommunications happen. We have all experienced miscommunication. But the miscommunication that I want to really dig into is what was intended to be heard versus what was actually heard. And the gap between that. There's lots and lots of studies online that we can read about the difference in perception. One of the famous ones I heard about was, if you have someone in one area, especially of the U.S., watching like an American football game, and say someone from fucking California or something watching a football game versus someone on the East Coast watching the same football game when they're fans of opposite teams, and then afterwards listening to what they took away from that game. Same game, completely different conclusions based on their own biases, right? What they wanted to see during that game. They wanted to see their own teams winning. Now, only one team can win, so that's interesting to hear the difference. But even in our everyday conversations, famous, right? I'll tell my husband something, and my intention is to convey one thing, and without realizing it, he will walk away from that conversation hearing something else, and inevitably it might cause some heat between us later, when we realize that we have miscommunicated. And that brings me to a really good point, which is miscommunication isn't intended. I don't think anybody look, unless you're a goddamn liar, and I've already talked about how much I dislike lying. I think it's selfish, but anyway. I don't believe that people intentionally miscommunicate. Communication is actually a system. You need to have a system of communication based on expectations, i.e., this is what I'm going to communicate. This is what I expect you to understand. And it also requires clarification. If someone is not understanding, then they need to ask what is actually intended. That doesn't happen very often, but I think it's because, like, I know I'm thinking back to a horrible situation that I was in where it was extremely critical that I fully understand what was being communicated to me, but I didn't even know to ask for clarification. Like, the miscommunication between me and this other person was so fundamental. Our perspectives were so fundamentally different that I didn't even know to ask for clarification because I fully thought I understood, and I didn't. And it was because we were just so different. So miscommunication absolutely happens, but what I believe to be the fundamental source of miscommunication is that gap between here is what I am intending to get across versus this is what the other person is hearing. Now that gap is further informed. Basically, what I refer to and what I wrote about on my first blog as our fucked up filter, our FUF. Because what our own innate filters, I'll kind of get into what that means. It warps both what we say and what we hear from others. And what we hear from ourselves, because everything that I'm talking about, as far as communication goes, it applies to both how we communicate. Because, look, the way that this works is that the way that we talk to ourselves is the way we will inevitably talk to other people. This is just human psychology. If we miscommunicate with ourselves, then we will miscommunicate with other people. And miscommunication with ourselves has a lot to do with storytelling. But I'll park that, and that's another rabbit hole to explore. So what are these fuffs, these filters? Well, to be quite honest, these filters are what it's all the shit that has happened to us over our lives. And it warps. It's like putting on a pair of glasses. And it is the way we see life around us. And those glasses have been developed through years of our upbringing, of our societal conditioning, of our values and beliefs. Oh God, it happens so often. Surely I can think of an example. Someone will tell me something and I'll just I make a conclusion based on what they said. Has nothing to do with what they intended. Has everything to do with how I think about things and how I understand things. I might put positive and negative spins on things when that person did not, and they couldn't have known. I don't feel like I'm explaining this very well. I should think of an example. Wait a tick. Right, I thought of an example. I was shopping in a Target, getting my normal groceries one day, many moons ago now. And, I was buying my normal bullshit, sugar-free snacks and tons of veggies and rah. And the checkout clerk, looked at me and said, "Wow, I don't think you have to eat like this." And I thought, how dare you? How dare you? Oh, she couldn't have known. She couldn't have known the filter I was putting that through, because it took me less than a second to see all the pain and struggle I had gone through to lose 120 pounds or 60 kgs of weight. She couldn't have seen my entire childhood of obesity. She couldn't have seen the emotional damage that led me to become obese. She could not have known the struggles that I was facing in real time with now becoming obsessed with exercise and diet and, if I'm honest, an eating disorder. All of that was swirling around in my brain, creating what I like to refer to as the snake pit of emotions. That is what I heard. What I heard was a very judgmental, "You don't need to eat like that." Whereas what she intended was to give me a compliment. Now, obviously, that compliment was not very well fucking received. And this brings me to another point about miscommunication. It's not intentional. I think this is where compassion comes in. Realizing that what people say to us, whether we put a positive spin on it or a negative spin on it, in accordance with our filters or however we're looking at the situation through our own glasses, compassion is understanding that, I like this. Compassion is understanding that everybody has their own set of glasses or filters that they're looking through. Empathy is being able to put on the glasses of someone else. Or at least at the very least, taking off our own glasses and understanding that we can't possibly know how that person is fully intending. What do they intend by what they're saying? It may sound snarky. It may sound like a compliment. It may sound sarcastic. It may sound blunt. But those things that people say to us, they're saying it through their own filter. And then there's the filter that it passes through to get to us. So of course we are bound to hear something different than what they say. Just something to bear in mind the next time we experience a communication breakdown.